adapt very quickly, just played out in a way that we would expect him. Left, right, attack to the middle, plenty of good control, and Showtime was probably a little more frazzled, a little more like, oh, that's where they'd come in from. Oh, that's where they'd come in from. Okay, that's a weak point in this map. Just felt like he wasn't quite as much on the ball. Made again this cheeky bunker, but this time the SCV is here for a bit of repair. It's basically dead, but not quite, and that's a bit more annoying for Showtime.
I don't want to know what it feels like to be inside of a power suit that's at 1 hit point out of 45. Like, I don't know. I guess you don't really even have a visor anymore. You're just looking straight out at the laser beams, to quote everybody here today. So you start up a Stargate in the main base. It is definitely a really annoying thing because it's not like he has to get the Nexus. Killing this pylon would be an absolute huge pain in the butt because it's just not supposed to happen.
Yeah, again, you can't build a shield battery that you would so easily be able to build if this was behind the minerals when you do this. That's the reason we see it. It's a bit of a new take on the way of doing this. I like that the Showtime goes for a shield battery on the high ground. It turned out to be unnecessary, which is very unfortunate, but he does eventually clean this up. And yeah, into the Stargate. So
does the SCV get away too?
I think it did. Did it?
Wow. There really is no justice in this world. The timing of this is pretty interesting, though. The Adept sees that both Cyclones and the Viking have come out, so the Oracles know they have carte blanche to go in and start wrecking these SCVs. And at the very least, getting as much damage as possible right now is going to be important. That Stasis Trap grabs both Cyclones. That's huge.
Yeah. That's really nice. That's so much extra time. He can't take on the army while the Stasis Trap is collecting those Cyclones, but it's still, again, by so much time. The tank does come forward, though, but the shield batteries, plural, now finished up. Overcharge will be available. Again, no Twilight Council upgrades. We're not going to have Charge off able to help out, but eventually maybe Showtime could just get it to enough actual plain gateway units. It does feel like it's not there. Maybe some, like, 6 Adepts shading on top of that tank would be a bit different. Maybe even dragging the Widow Mines, but this is going to be a brutal break. The Widow Mines even already collecting a lot of the Protoss army. Viking even landing.
I like
now,
that.
Trade of workers has occurred, one that still leaves Showtime with this army that's very questionable.
Well, hey, Revenge of the Phoenix. Liberator is going to siege up on the natural and get a few probes, but at the very least, those 2 Phoenix are able to remove that from the equation. Yeah, and I really like the use of the Oracles in this game because not only did they get a ton of damage done, they also saved that third base, I think, by getting the stasis on the Cyclones. If he's able to lock on and pick off just 1 or 2 more of those units, things can fall apart quickly. The random mine, though, well, it's a good unit.
It's sometimes really good in that.
The less sense the position makes, the more sense it makes.
The second Oracle is going to survive. Still very useful for the revelations, figuring out where everything is.
I think he sees this stasis trap too, threading the needle on this one.
Wow.
The Phoenix are just a teeny bit out of position. It's all Marines in here, so if he's able to unload, he can do something, and it's in a choke as well against where these Zealots got warped in.
Oh, the Phoenix just a smidge out of position. 2, 3 of them getting taken down. The rest of the army has to come in here. I mean, this is such a drastic difference from what the Phoenix were just in the exact right place. Then there's no concern, really, from Showtime. Maru just abandoned ship and the whole idea, and it's back to just tackling the engagement in front of your base, not in your base. But Showtime does handle it. It's going to come back down here and have to save maybe the other gateway, maybe the robo, but he will save them. And he's going to push this back. Maru, again, if he does retreat, he might have difficulty doing it, so best be doing it quickly. And he does go back home with everything. Now, Ghoster on the way, however. That does take down the army of Showtime, but he's already on his way to a Colossus transition.
I actually really like the timing of going into the Ghosts here, mostly because he threw away a lot of units to do what he just did. And it's like, yeah, he got some probes, killed some of the Zealots, got some of the Phoenix, but Showtime, he's ahead in supply. He has a big army. He has, that's a huge army. He's got a crazy number of Zealots. And my fear starts to become, like, if he overextends a bit there, and then Showtime's able to get back on him, or if he's able to hit a flank on this siege towards the third that's coming, then the counterattack opportunity towards the third becomes really big. So getting into Ghost this quickly is great because, I mean, 1 EMP in center massive Zealots is going to remove like 700 shields. Right. So you have a lot of ways to deal with this kind of mass gateway style. It's age-old conundrum of, well, there are some even further high up the tech tree units that you can get that are actually strong. They become even stronger when the Terran's army is like too balanced out. You know, if you don't have a lot of Marines, we've seen players even in the European segment of getting into this tournament in the first place catch some top Terrans off guard. Guys like Clem and take those maps just off of saying, well, you actually don't have enough Marines with your army to deal with the carrier transition or Tempest to force them to come in and fight and try to dive those disruptors. But Maru, at the same time, is getting his own air upgrades, moving into that +3 Liberator range. So if he gives Showtime, I want to know what exactly he's going to try and get out of those Stargates down the line, because he still has a lot of his supply available, but he's going to use those disruptors, pushes some of the bio back. The EMP's pretty gnarly out of Maru so far.
Yeah, I mean, that was a really wide concave there from Maru. Obviously, as he chases, it gets a little more dangerous, but a lot of the disruptors had already used their shots. So that was a little bit scary for both parties, honestly. I'm with you. I think that actually pacing-wise, Showtime is showing, I suppose, maturity is the word I'm going to use. If he had been able to stick around a bit longer there and just continued bullying Maru, and then suddenly he shows up with Tempest or carriers, and he is choosing carriers, that's actually Maru probably just being gobsmacked. Like, oh, shoot, like, you're already at that point, and I'm being slightly contained. That's a problem. But now as Maru does push away Showtime, there's a little more flexibility. He can kind of work around these capital ships that are also very slow. They're going to slow the game down a little bit, and it's more of that slow positional game for both parties because, of course, Maru is going into Liberators.
And he sees those carriers like you were discussing, continues to raise the Viking count, but continues to also add those Liberators. That's going to be huge. Now there's the blink. 1, 2, and very low. SCV's not able to get the wraparound to save it in time, and now they will begin to die. The Liberators are going to try and siege, cover the ground so that these Vikings have space to go after the carriers. There's no storm, so just about almost gets one. And the Stalkers are able to shave off a decent bit of them, so not too shabby. Showtime picks off a base, trades some of the health on one of his carriers for a few Vikings. He's going to break those rocks, and I don't think he needs to force a fight here, but as that carrier count continues to rise, things get real funky. I love that he's getting this many Liberators, though. I feel like it's a trap a lot of Terrans fall into, where they try to go like just Giga Vikings, and then they end up realizing, oh wait, Vikings die in like 3 shots to half of these units. This is the correct way to do it, though. You know, I feel like it becomes almost a misconception that's like the Terran has to always be out on the map attacking. Protoss bleeds a lot of resources. Look at Showtime's mineral bank, right? If you're adding all these cannons, you're burning these interceptors every fight. That's chewing into that bank. It hurts the money a lot. He says, I'm content to just EMP you, and once you EMP, that means the Liberators are one-shotting the Stalkers too. So the damage output is just insane, and he's basically saying, yeah, Showtime, try to kill me, try to finish this game off. You're totally broke, you have no money left, and as though he has all these bases, he's got all these tools that he can use, but he's it's almost like you're just trying to bait the Protoss into attacking into you, and meanwhile he's getting high-sec auto tracking for extra missile turret and planetary range. Building armor is just going to make everything harder to destroy. And Ghost Cloak, which always good.
Yeah, I guarantee worse Terrans have already taken a bit of a loss here or there. Lost a planetary, had to do a very slow retake kind of thing, and it's just not the case for Maru, who's been very content on 5 bases. Maybe reaching towards a 6th will be difficult, but I think that Showtime does need to push the idea of being a Zerg a little bit here. He needs to take the map and really increase his bank, because he's the one that's going to be trading much, much worse. And he's not trying to go for a capital ship versus capital ship situation here. He's not going all in on Tempest carrier, so it is going to be a lot of replacing gateway units on the ground and trying to find Maru out of position, which, again, has not happened so far.
And we have another big round of DTs getting warped in. I do believe a Prism tried to slip around towards the main and got popped. What's the resources lost look like right now? Maru has to be in a pretty good spot there. Yeah, that's about what I expected. About almost a 10,000 total resource difference between the two. So Showtime's bleeding out a lot to make this happen. He blinks a ton of DTs onto these Marauders. It looks very cool. Costs a lot too, though.
You have to actually get all the DTs blinking in a surround. Like, only partially, and they slip out of there, and the DTs, they feel, useless. They're not supposed to be head-on attackers, after all, even though they sometimes can be. So that's a funny investment, basically. It's not a terrible idea, to be clear. It just is really a big investment for a guy who's not yet at that very comfortable bank. Still trying to find some damage. I'm sure he also intended to use these DTs not just for defense, but also for offense. But you have to have so many to crack a planetary with upgrades protected by Liberators. You have to have so many DTs, and even then it might not be worth it. It just costs you so much. And here's that situation I'm talking about. Yeah, the planetary might go down. It will. But it's still going to cost him perhaps quite a bit. Well, actually, if he just evacuates immediately, that's not bad.
Yeah, he's pushing in and creating some soft points. It's very similar to watching someone try to break down a mech player. The wild thing is that at the end of all of that, this last 7-minute standoff we've basically been in, Showtime is down a couple of those bases that he had mining. He's mining out on the bases that he's already had for a while. And Maru, he takes one of those, he takes that fresh base in the bottom right. He's like, okay, this is going to fuel the next couple of minutes of the game for me. And as long as I can continue to trade and get these big unit pickoffs and then just leapfrog my way very slowly as I take new bases, he can continue to fund the war effort and try to, you know, just pressure Showtime out economically. But he did get that top left nexus, and he's actually taking the top left center one as well. Really good play out of both of them. This Stalker Blink, a bit adventurous, though, is going to eat some shots with the Disruptor on the tail end, gets a couple nice hits, kills about 7 or so of the Ghosts. Really nice grabs there. And Maru, well, how about this? We got a hell of a game on our hands here, don't we, Zombiegrub?
Hell yeah, we do. And Showtime might actually be doing it here. Although, yeah, that does get the planetary. That was one of those really costly DT investments I was bringing up earlier. Didn't realize that there was actually a sizable army down behind that planetary. Bit of an overextension from Showtime, but still grabbing these bases, reducing Maru's bank is big, but Showtime needs to make sure not to over-dedicate. It's not like he has 5,000, and he is starting to lose some of these very expensive units. I think what he was thinking for that last engagement, too, was that Maru was so choked in, Disruptors might have gotten even better hits, but not able to take down those last Liberators. Cost him quite a bit. Needs to always be careful about that. Both of them really have to be careful. You know, we're in 2,000 atmospheres, one of the biggest maps as far as the amount of bases that are available, especially these half bases. One of these is actually a half base with a rich Vespian. And we still actually have not gotten to the point, 25, 26 minutes in, where all of these bases have been mined. There's a lot of mining left over, and it's going to be a war of attrition as the game goes on. But speaking of mining, 16 SCVs go down. Fresh command center going to be an easy pick there as well. But again, a base for a base as Maru charges up to the top left, takes down the recall opportunity with an EMP. Is going to take down probes as well. A real trade going on here. And what is going to be the response of Showtime? He does have the recall, but he's going to make sure
get the bottom
right.
Does. He did fly the command center to the southeast expansion, was trying to grab that, but this is where the money starts to get tight, and that cost effectiveness that we've been discussing all game long becomes so important. With a 12,000 resource difference, Maru's got still a little bit more to work with. It's been hard to take those bases, but like you said, Zombiegrub, he hasn't actually been able to mine them out. And when you're playing Terran, all you need to do is take that base for about 2 minutes. Even if it gets killed, you drop 10 mules on that bad boy, you've got enough money to play the game. You got enough quarters to stay at the arcade cabinet for about a couple hours.
Yeah, you do. Although in this particular situation, gas is also an issue for Maru. He's not been able to take too many new gas geysers, and he is still affording very expensive units. Liberators, Ghosts, Medivacs even was something that he's had to also account for. We see him occasionally producing more as he realizes that's still an important factor in this game. It does feel like Maru is getting a bit close to the point, not of all-inning, but more of the objective here is to get the Liberators across the map, where it's not about defending and turtling with those Liberators, 2 here, 3 there. No, it's about going through the middle of the map, and this is now something that Showtime needs to just delay. If these Liberators siege up close to his production, well, he have the same problem that a Terran does. Like, if his production's just gone, okay, that's still a problem. So he's even starting to get Tempest again, which I think is very necessary. Yeah. Liberators have become one of the scariest things as they move across the map, actually going to retreat. I guess Maru was just looking to get a monkey off his back for a little while and is hoping to find another base before he really commits.
Yeah, the amount of backstab counter harass that Showtime has done has been incredible in this game. A lot of these units, like we've talked about, they're expensive, sure, but he's done what he's needed to do for the most part, because it really is just such a difficult situation if Maru's able to siege up outside of your base. Yeah. You have to be counterattacking. You have to pull the Terran home. It's the same kind of conversation we were having before when we were talking about probe, and maybe if you would use prisms. Comes in, blinks for the Liberators. That EMP causes quite a few of the Stalkers to get popped. And even though there are Tempests coming out, like you said, there's so many Vikings, it's going to be quite challenging. Maru is starting to encroach upon the last vestige of fresh economy in the northwest corner of this map. Disruptors are doing everything they can, but this bio's splitting pretty decently thus far. Takes a couple more chunks out, but now the Liberators have sieged the front line. That's going to expose those 2 top left bases to a little bit of a split off if he just tries to push in towards them.
That was so messy, but it's a good thing that Maru had so much room to actually do those splits. That could have gone so much worse for the Terran, but as it is it enough for him? It's done a tremendous amount of damage to Showtime's army, but these Tempests coming in absolutely clutch. The thing was, as Maru was engaging and trying to reposition his Liberators, he was slowly getting them bled off. The Stalkers were occasionally destroying them, meaning that there wasn't enough anti-air to tackle the Tempest that Maru probably was not really expecting. But you said it, there was the attack there meant that there was 2 bases that Showtime was going to lose, which he desperately needs and cannot save them. But if he can take a good enough fight, then maybe it's still in Showtime's favor. Once again, forced to retreat in this area. He's going to lose all of the Disruptors this time around. Not a single one left over for a shot. It's down to Gateways and Tempest. And Showtime is still just going for harassment.
And he's
going to pull back and still do so much damage.
Striking back, but he got rid of the Liberators. Wildly enough, that opens the door on the Gateway units to actually fight head-to-head with the bio. These DTs just barely going to try to blink away. Of course, there is so many orbital commands for Maru. He's been able to keep those scans rolling, but the money, the income, both players, I think those first 3 bases totally gone. It's like income advantage very close, but the actual total income itself on both sides is now quite low.
Yes, it is. Absolutely. Showtime's not really minding with all 39 probes. Did the top left survive? Oh, it didn't die. It went down into the red, didn't die. That's actually pretty big. Showtime still has all these capital ships. The Tempest, they're slow. They don't really deal, I guess, like a tremendous amount of damage, not very fast shooters,
that's
right?
actually insane, too.
But they are extremely helpful. When there's no Vikings in the air chasing down these Tempests now, it becomes a real issue for Maru. And yeah, that top left base, that actually might be a big mistake for Maru.
Showtime is playing out of his mind. If you told me that this was Maru versus stats, I'd be like, damn, this is some good Korean PVT. But the way that Maru played against Serral, we expected him to be kicking some serious butt, but oh my god, Showtime has absolutely taken him to the limit. As soon as that army tries to move out towards that northwest base that we were discussing, DT is in for a bit more damage. If he's able to blink that one out, that'll be huge. Some Zealots do get caught trying to be rallied outside, but he says, okay, if you're going to have everything over there, it's time for me to push out and try to get a little bit more done. A nuclear warhead has been called down on the ramp. If Maru's able to hit this, it'd be huge. Okay, cancels it, steps out. Says it's not worth losing. The Ghost must cancel that and just reposition.
Oh, he's had that nuke forever. I was like, what if it came down to this one nuke? That'd be so sick. But no, just forced to cost-benefit analysis very quickly. Says, I'm going to leave the Ghost. I think the nuke's not going to help me so much.
The Ghost costs more than the nuke, so that's a fair observation.
Yeah, this is an absolutely sick game. I still don't really know how it's going to go because it feels like all that has to happen for Maru to win is for Showtime to be surrounded. Tempest can't retreat. Disruptors don't get good shots. And then there's still probably enough anti-air, although we're not, again, talking about Vikings, rather Marines and Ghosts, to take down the Tempest. But it's a bit what if. Maru does have more supply. That's about all in army as well. They both been reduced down to sub 20 workers. But is it good enough supply? Is it going to tackle the Disruptors who have... The Disruptors have so much potential. Even the Tempest doing there we have it. No, Maru is paying attention. But there's only so many Disruptors in this army. One finally finds a connection. Next one going to find a couple more Marauders. But the army of Maru is collapsing in. It's going to find the Disruptors. Can it find the Tempest as well? A couple of them starting to go down. The shield batteries desperately trying to hold on. Disruptor from the left side looking for the perfect shot. Finds a pretty good one. But Showtime is starting to run low on units. The Tempest weren't pulled back. They weren't migrated to the dead zone. And Maru takes the 2-0. Oh my god.
What a game, man. That's a cheeky smile. He's like, okay.